Hello, I'm back in with another video, and today I'm just doing a tier list of the Chainsaw Man Part 1 of the manga main characters. I'm like majorly going to be staying away from spoilers, so if you haven't read the entirety of it, these are just brief overviews of the characters, so don't worry about that. And yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, so let's get into it. Starting off, I'm going to skip the main characters since those are kind of more exciting, so I'll probably leave those till later on. I'm just going to start off with someone like the Tomato Devil, of course, the most powerful and popular character in the series. So I think Tomato Devil is straight to S tier. You know, everyone loves the Tomato Devil, right? Obviously, this is a joke, but I'm leaving the Tomato Devil in S tier anyway, because why not? Next up, I'm forgetting her name right now because I'm really bad with names, but she was from season one of the anime, which just dropped, and she was a big player. She had that kind of snake like devil and was part of the reason that Himeno died. So I think she was a pretty good villain. We didn't get too much backstory as to her motivations. We got a little bit. Her devil power, or contract, I should say, was really interesting for what it was. Because of the lack of depth, though, and lack of interest, really cool design with the hoodie and all, but I'll say like C tier. Also, these aren't all exact. They're kind of just how I'm feeling in the moment, unless it's like S tier where I feel really strongly, or like F tier. They're all kind of muddled a bit. Next up is going to be Beam, who we were also introduced to in season one. He's just a really loyal, awesome character. There's not necessarily much depth to him, but he has a really cool power and could go through walls and such as if it were water. I really like the depiction of this character. He's really loyal and nice to Denji, and honestly, I'll put him in a solid B tier. Not quite like an A tier character in terms of depth, but I do love his presence in the story, and he does bring something with him. Next up is Katana Man, also known as the guy whose name I'm forgetting. Obviously, he's like the grandson of the guy that was a part of the Yakuza and used Denji for the large majority of his life. Denji, of course, had to then go and kill the zombies and the zombie devil, and we saw all that play out in the first episode of season one. Katana Man thinks that his grandpa was a good person, even though he obviously wasn't, so he has that misconception, and he comes head to head with Denji. It creates for a good back and forth, and I feel like he is one of the better villains in that first season, really probably one of the only ones. And because of this, I'd put him in a solid B tier. I think he's good for what he is. Next up is Kishbi. I think that's how it's pronounced, but he's that mentor Levi like almost character, and he fills that role and goes beyond it. He loves his women and drinking, and the fact that he's still alive is just insane because he seems like a character that should die, especially having that mentor role, but he lives on and is just really badass and funny. I think he's honestly an S tier character. We get a lot of his backstory as his story progresses. He shows how Chainsaw Man may take tropes from other anime and manga and kind of flip it on its head where, okay, he is this mentor, but he's not quite what you'd expect as a person. Of course, sometimes mentors are a little more silly or have these quirks, but he has a lot of them, and it's just really funny that he's still alive. He's probably surprised. But yeah, awesome character. Moving on to Yoshida, we don't get too much of Yoshida in part one, and I don't want to spoil what we get, but he has a really cool devil contract, which we get to see a few times in part one, and now he's starting to make appearances in part two. I guess that's a spoiler to say he survives, but that's all I'm gonna say about that. Yoshida's a really cool character to me, and while we don't know a lot about him yet, I just love kind of how he's looming and he's just badass to say the least, and I like characters like him. So I'm gonna put him in A tier, which may not be that fair because we barely know anything about him, but he's just really entertaining every time he shows up to me. And I think there's going to be a lot more to him as he seems to be playing an important role. Next up is a somewhat divisive one. The what some people call a groomer is Himeno. I like Himeno's character. I know she is flawed in certain ways. She comes on too strong, but a lot of the time she is well-meaning, and she does serve to progress Aki's character a lot. That's really her main thing, and she's kind of that first real death and twist in the story that shows, oh, things aren't going to go how we may think they were. I did a whole video on that, but Himeno, in my opinion, is easily an A tier character, not quite S tier because she is there so little. But from her character, we get so much cool insight into the public safety, the devil hunters, what it's like to be losing teammates and team members, friends constantly, what that does to you, and just how people live that life. So I think she's a really good character for those reasons alone. Next up is the Violence Devil, someone whose reputation kind of precedes him, as they always make him wear a gas mask to kind of contain some of his power, just in case they have to kill him or something along those lines, which was again said in season one when we were introduced to him. He goes on to just be a really cool character. Nothing like outstanding about him. I don't think I'm gonna put him in A tier, but he does serve a really cool purpose, and he has interesting relationships with some of the other cast, which I won't necessarily spoil here. But him and Kobanai kind of have this cool friendship as he's paired up with her in her kind of unit. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in B tier, and while we cure Kobanai, I'm gonna put also into B tier. She's really this comedic relief character that also has a lot of depth to her. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna put her in A tier. That depth definitely puts her above those characters in B tier. Her depiction of the reasons why she's in the Devil Hunters, of course, to make money, and it was that or like selling herself in not great ways. Obviously, if she doesn't want to do that. So this is what she chose to be a Devil Hunter, and it pays well, and that's the only reason. She's obviously very scared, but also very skilled. She's a fun character because of this, and A tier, I think. I'm pretty sure. I may move some of these around, but for now, A tier. Next up, I'm gonna put all of Kwanzaa's or Kwangsi's. It's spelt with a X, but I haven't heard it like said yet. So I'm just gonna say Kwanzi because it sounds a little better and it's easier to say. But I'm gonna put Kwanzi without any spoilers. She's a character that has these kind of like devil lovers, and I'm just gonna put them all in C tier. None of them really get any crazy spotlight. We get to see some of them fight, some of their unique abilities, and I do like their placement, but again, they're more so used to serve. Oh, wait. Here's the Halloween Devil, which is a really interesting one, I think, with the most interesting of these powers. But yeah, they all just serve to further Kwang Si's development and character. And because of that, we don't get a lot of them, but nonetheless, they are very important characters, especially to her. She does care about them so much. Now, though, to actually rank Kwanzi herself, I think she's easily an A or S tier character. I'm going to put A for now, but there is interesting depth that we get. As later on in part one, we found out some stuff with her backstory, her relationship to Kishbi. I'll just say that. She's very skilled, very badass, and I'm super excited to see her in a possible season 2 or 3 whenever that comes around. Really cool character. I like the relationship she has with her devils. I don't know how the anime is going to do it, but they aren't too shy from showing things as we've seen in season 1. And there are very explicit images with her and her girlfriends in the Chainsaw Man manga. So I'm interested to see how that goes down just as far as censorship, but they'll probably include it, I'm sure. Anyways, though, moving on, I'm gonna do the future devil next. He has a really cool looming place in the story. We just met him in part one. Obviously, Aki just made a deal with him. He's gonna live in Aki's eye in exchange for Aki to see a few seconds into the future, which gives him kind of this power up that he kind of needed. And this desperation he had after losing Himeno and feeling weak because he wasn't able to stop that from happening. And he wants to protect people and continue hunting the gun devil. It's his obsession. With that being said, the future devil tells him that he just wants to live in his eye so he could see. The future devil says he's going to die in the worst way possible and is excited about that. He's just like, the future rules. He's a really kind of flamboyant character that I enjoy from a devil, and especially in the series, there's kind of a decent amount of characters like that, but especially him, it's just a really cool depiction. And he plays off of Aki in a really cool way and furthers Aki. So because of this, I'm going to put him in B tier. Next up, we're gonna do the guy that was a part of public safety, and we barely see anything of him. So I'm gonna have to put him in D tier, honestly. We just barely saw anything from him, nothing like against his character per se. It is interesting how he saves Kobani's life and sacrificed himself for her, which furthers her development. But I feel like I just kind of like him less than even the people in C tier. So I'm just gonna put him in D tier. Again, I don't remember his name though. Moving on to D tier, I'm gonna put these two characters whose names I'm also forgetting, but we see them paired up together, and they kind of came and helped out Makima as well as Aki. They brought him to fulfill a new devil contract, and one of them or both of them was saying, "Yeah, we joined also because of the gun devil, but we're not insane enough to think that we alone could kill it." Talking about Aki's obsession, but also then wishing him luck, like saying maybe he's crazy enough to do it. Sadly, though, we really don't get anything else from these characters. We do see them again, but that's all I'm going to say about that. They're kind of just, they amount to not much, which is a shame because I like their matching scars and they look kind of cool, but that's all we get on that. Next up is this guy who I barely remember, but I think he was from the assassination, like on Denji arc, and he was one of his protectors. I'm just gonna put him in C. No, I'll put him in D tier too. I don't remember him enough, honestly, but I feel like from what I do remember, he had a cool ability, but I don't have too much to say on that one. Next is the Gun Devil, and I'm gonna put the Gun Devil in S tier for the Gun Devil arc alone, which comes at the further end of part one. This devil is absolutely terrifying. It's of course the looming threat over all of part one. It's Aki's main motivation, and just to see the absolute destruction it does, it's very just terrifying and beautifully drawn and depicted. When this comes to the anime, it's going to be insane to see. And because of this, this character really does serve as an S tier character. Even though we may not get much personality from the character, what comes of the character and the impact it has on the overall story easily is S tier. Don't open the door, Denji. Anyways, moving on. Speaking about that, I'm gonna now do Aki and Power. Aki and Power both easily S tier in their own respective rights. Aki, of course, being this person that is more so reserved and serious and just obsessed with taking down the gun devil, but we see him slowly open up because of Power and Denji, and they start having a relationship and living together, as well as Power, who's just this devil fiend who learns to care a bit, even though she's very rambunctious and says she only likes cats. She's theatric. She clearly does care for both Aki and Denji, and we get a lot of beautiful moments between them, and I love seeing that family grow and develop. Without getting into too much spoilers, just further in the manga, there's so many amazing scenes with these three, including Denji, who I'll just put in S tier now as well. Sorry if I sound a little weird. I feel like I'm losing my voice a little bit, but Denji, I've done videos on Denji already. He's a beautifully portrayed character, and you could watch so many video essays, so I don't want to wax poetic about that right here, but I would say with all his development and growth and how shallow he may seem, but how deep he truly is beneath that surface level and the care he has for Aki and Power, it's just all really well done, and he's more than meets the eye is all I'll say. We get a lot of cool development with Denji as the story goes on. Next is this guy, which kind of just serves as a puppet type character, and then the literal puppet devil. I think that's what their name was. Cool character, cool design, but I can't really give them more than C tier. I wasn't like infatuated with it. Like, wow, I was more so focused on everyone around this character, and they were just kind of that antagonist that was filling in during the meantime. On the other end of that spectrum, though, shows a devil that's absolutely horrifying. This is the Darkness Devil, I believe. It's kind of hard to see from this little square here, but this character is easily. I'm debating. It's really the artwork alone for this character is just like insane and beautiful, and I think I'm gonna have to put him in A tier or her. I don't think we get like a gender them. I'm gonna put them in A tier because this character is just absolutely terrifying. And even though it's a very brief appearance, it was so impactful on my reading. These are some of the most beautifully drawn chapters of Chainsaw Man. The character is terrifying, and that's all I'm really gonna say about that without going into spoilers, obviously. But really well done character, even though we don't see a lot of them or even personality. More so what they symbolize and represent is just very powerful. Next is Meowie, and Meowie is obviously an S tier character. How could they not be? And following Meowie is Pochita, also S tier. We got the dog and the cat kind of thing going on there. Denji and Power. Down to our four characters, though. This is one I'm like barely remembering. I'm trying to look closer. I'm gonna, I don't know. I don't know what this is, so I'm just gonna put it I don't know tier just for that. Sorry, guys. Moving on, that we have Reese, who's teased at the end of season one. She's a fantastic character who I really can't say much about without spoiling anything, but I'm gonna put her in S tier. Backstory, motivation, personality, powers, which I won't spoil what those are. Everything just super interesting. Relationship with Denji, beautiful and a lot better than the next character, Makima. Her relationship with Denji, while I won't spoil anything for the manga, you could already see there's something up with Makima from season one of the anime. That being said, though, she's an amazing character. And that's all I'll say about that because she's a great character. I can't say she's a great protagonist or like hero or anything, but that says enough about that. Makima, good character. Lastly is the Angel Devil, who I'm gonna put in A tier, I think. Almost S tier, but I feel like we just get a little bit less from Angel than we do from other characters. The Angel Devil's main plot thread revolves around him and Aki, and it's really more so on Aki's end, Aki learning to care about even a devil and Aki not wanting this person to be harmed in any way and protecting them again, even though they are a devil. And Angel sometimes, or a lot of the time, actually does the same back to Aki, and they have this care for each other and this friendship. The more I say about Angel, honestly, and the more I think about it, I think he is an S tier character just for that relationship alone. It is so powerful and meaningful to both these characters and seeing them develop. We just got a glimpse at the end of part one, season one. And yeah, it's a really beautiful relationship, one of the best in the show. And looking at this list, I think I'm happy with it. S tier. Tomato Devil, of course, the most important character. But yeah, I don't think I would change anything just looking at it. I really love part one of this story. I think it has amazing characters even when they're not there for that long. It feels like there's no filler. Every single character moment is important, and every character serves a really interesting purpose. And yeah, I really love this part one of the manga. I'm enjoying part two. If you want to watch a video on that, I'll link it in the description. And yeah, that's it for this video. If you did enjoy, please like, comment, subscribe. It helps out a lot. I'm gonna try to do some more of these because I kind of like these tier videos. They're fun to make, and yeah. So that's it. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.